Hi there, Zami for NerdTube. These are my thoughts and spoilers of Peaky Blinders Season 6, Episode 3, Gold. So, Thomas is a desperate man. His daughter is sick and he's going to do anything he can in order to get her well. We see at the beginning of this episode him taking his daughter to hospital and how erratic he's being regarding all of that. His daughter is suffering from tuberculosis, and whilst his daughter is in hospital getting her medical treatment, he's going to look for other means, so to speak, to get her well. Now, this is kind of bizarre as far as I'm concerned, because Thomas is, he said when he spoke to Jack Carlson in the previous episode that he's not a church-going man, he's not a religious man, he thinks it's all bullshit. But when it comes to sort of his gypsy ideology, he very much believes in all that bollocks. And he goes looking for Esma being his late younger brother's wife, who's now like a gypsy queen. And she takes the piss with him, in my opinion. You kind of realise that during the course of this episode, especially near the tail end of it, because Thomas, being so desperate to find a cure for his daughter, he's willing to pay anything and do anything to get that cure, and she realises that. And so she literally leads him up the garden path by taking him up mountains and riding horses and going to gypsy graveyards, and basically saying, you have to give me more money, give me gold, give me this, that, and the other, and I will help you. And you can see that she just wants to basically take advantage of a man who's very desperate. And Thomas, who's usually got his head on his shoulders, who's kind of blinded by the fact that his daughter is so sick, is willing to spend anything and do anything. And by the end of this episode, well, I'm just talking about Thomas Shelby's storyline for this episode. By the end of this episode, because he's so preoccupied in finding this gypsy cure and going along gypsy magic, when he finally gets back to the hospital, his daughter's dead. It was a really fucked up way to end the episode. It's a very somber episode as well, by the way, but that was crazy. Him so busy trying to find a cure that really he needed to be by his daughter's side, because sometimes hope and laughter and those sort of things can be the best medicine, and him not being there probably made things worse and for his daughter, and she ended up dying. And that was a terrible way for the episode to end, but that's how it is regarding Thomas Shelby. Now, with Arthur Shelby being a waste man, John obviously being dead, and Finn being too young, it's up to Ada to take on the reins for the Shelby corporations, because obviously Thomas is preoccupied. Now, Ada definitely comes into play as a new Polly Gray of the Shelbys. She's a very determined, powerful woman, and she takes shit from nobody, and I love seeing her in this episode. She was probably one of the best things about this episode, seeing her take on that mantle and take it on really well. She first visits Oswald Mosley and co, and it's regarding the affairs of the Shelby Corporation, because obviously she's filling in for Thomas, because Thomas is obviously dealing with the issues with his daughter. And it's funny how other people look at Thomas's affairs, saying, doesn't he have other people to deal with this? And she's reminding people like Jack and Oswald that he's the father, he cares about his daughter, and whilst other people think that that the wife should take care of it, or Age should take care of it. And it kind of shows you the mindset of these people when it comes to their own family members, their own children. They would let somebody else deal with those issues instead of them dealing it with themselves. So you can tell you're dealing with despicable people who don't even give a fuck about their children. Anyways, we also follow Ada going into sort of old school familiar territory of the sort of business and day-to-day operations of the Shelby organization by going into the bookies and speaking to one of their members. His name escapes me right now. I've got a list of the cast here, but I can't find him. Oh yes, Isaiah. Jesus. Isaiah is basically running the bookies, whilst all the other Shelbys have had bigger aspirations. I mean, Arthur should be running it too, but he's wasted, so he just locks himself up in the safe so he doesn't end up going down bad habits again. Nevertheless, people are stealing opium from the Liverpool docks because people have found out opium is there. So Ada tells Isaiah, look, I want you and Arthur to go up there and deal a beating to these motherfuckers and make sure people stop stealing our opium, because they're stealing it by the buckets now. There's 5 tons of it, so there's plenty to steal. So Arthur, once he gets his shit together a little bit, he gets Isaiah and a few of Isaiah's cousins to go up to Liverpool, and they're going to look to put a beating down on some of these dudes. And then we get our sort of special guest of the week, and that is Stephen Graham, playing a guy called Hayden Chase, I believe. Hayden Chase is in charge of the docks, and a lot of these people like to play football and stuff like that. And he's about to get a beating. You know, he's ready to take his beating because of all the opium being stolen. But he gives a talk to Arthur, who's in a real sort of lost place at this moment in time. A man who's trying to look like he's keeping it together, who hasn't got it together. And I have to say, the acting by Paul Anderson playing Arthur Shelby in this episode was absolutely fantastic. I mean, you can see that he's a real troublesome soul, and the way Stephen Graham's character got to him by telling him, you know, like about the troubles he's going through because he's been through it himself, was absolutely fantastic. And I was expecting a scene where you would expect a lot of gangster shit of a bunch of fucking, you know, cleaners, so to speak, you know, in gangster terms, going over to this warehouse and cleaning house and beating the fuck out of some people, and, you know, giving them a reminder of who the Peaky Blinders are. But the way Stephen Graham's character was able to talk his way out of that and just remind Arthur that, you know, what he's going through, who he once was, and some of the shit that he's been through in his life, it was just absolutely amazing and mind-blowing. And the only thing Stephen Graham got was a punch from Isaiah. And even then, you know, before the beating commenced, Arthur Shelby stopped it. It was absolutely bizarre, absolutely crazy, and I don't think that the situation with the docks has stopped, because at the end of the day, they're trying to stop people from stealing their opium. I don't know how this is going to be resolved and how Ada's going to take this when she finds out, you know, what Arthur's been doing, because he's kind of shown, you know, in gangster terms, some weakness. You know, he's been manipulated. We'll see how that pans out. I'm sure Isaiah's not going to be too happy about it either, and he'll probably want to, you know, step up, so to speak, because Arthur didn't step up. But Arthur was there to be the Peaky Blinders sort of reputation. You know, he's a Shelby. People who know who he is don't fuck with the Shelbys, but the Shelbys got fucked with. So we'll see how this pans out. Anyways, with all that's been going on in this episode, really, it was just a lot more personal, and with Ada obviously coming into play, we got to see her be a more powerful character, so to speak, as well as the self-destruction of Thomas Shelby to a degree in this episode. I'm not saying he's totally self-destruct, but he definitely fell apart in this episode, trying to find a cure for his daughter and not being the sort of reasonable person that he can be, and the intelligent person that he can be, being played, so to speak, by gypsies. Anyways, we'll see how things pan out next week. Not much from the Oswald Mosley, Jack Carlson front. They are going to be paying the Shelbys a visit next week, I believe, because Ada give them invitations regarding the business he wants to do, the Shelbys want to do with them, and it'll probably be at their property. But where we go from there after that, I don't know. And what will Thomas Shelby's mindset be? I don't know. Arthur Shelby obviously is fucked up as well. Finn is too young, as I mentioned earlier. And it seems that Ada is going to be carrying a lot of the responsibilities on her shoulders. Anyway, let me know what you think regarding this episode. I thought it was a good episode, but definitely a more chilled. Chilled is not the right word. As I said earlier, somber, but I can't really think of an alternative word to use other than sombra. But yes, definitely sombra. Anyway, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care. Bye-bye.